Good morning, Tampa Bay. Welcome to Channelside Sports in the morning. I am Danny, one of your esteemed co-hosts. We've got a huge show lined up here for us today. We have Game 2 preview of the Tampa Bay Lightning New York Rangers series. Of course, I've got my good friend Henry Yoho from Bolts by the Bay coming in. We're going to talk a little Rays. Did ESPN give the Tampa Bay Rays a little too much respect? All kinds of Tampa Bay Buccaneers news, cap space, should they add depth, and a little bit of NBA finals chatter. Game 1 was last night, of course. Obviously, we're starting to implement NBA into our coverage as we are the Orlando Magic's official home. As we get ready to roll into Game 2, I feel it's only necessary. I have to bring in Henry Yoho, managing editor of Bolts by the Bay. Great friend of mine. I am very honored to have you joining us this morning. Henry, welcome to the show. Absolutely, my friend. So Game 2 is tonight. Game 2. First thing I got to ask you, after Game 1, did you hit the panic button at all?
Oh, no, definitely not. I think that it was a pretty expected performance, especially after the 9 days off. And, this team's shown time and time again the ability to bounce back. So no reason to panic by any means at this point. So,
yeah, it was 9 days it's nice, but it's also it's good and it's bad. You had too much time off, rust generated, and I said this yesterday. The Lightning team is a little older, and when you get to the ripe age like I am, Henry, it's a body in motion stays in motion, and you can only go so hard in practices.
Yeah, it's sort of a weird balance they're trying to find it. You can't say, oh, they wish they would have lost that fourth game against Florida. You're trying to win all the games in front of you. And like you mentioned, an older team, they want to take advantage of all that opportunity they can to rest. And, they paid the price for it in Game 1. And I don't think it should be something that should carry over to the rest of the series, but it certainly hurt them in the first game. And I think that's the last you'll hear about it.
I'm definitely hoping so. I'm sure the rest of us that are around Tampa are hoping so as well. This is not unfamiliar territory for them to lose Game 1 of a series, though.
Yeah, it's almost been, I think, 50-50 over these past 3 playoff runs if they win Game 1 or not. And obviously they always have the answer. They always come back and win Game 2 after losing Game 1. So, I think about 50% of the time, I think they've lost Game 1. So.
And, yeah, 2 cups. I'll take those odds.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with. I mean, they probably had one of their worst performances of the playoffs in round 1, Game 1 against Toronto. And, obviously they got shut out 5-0 in the first game of the playoffs. And obviously they just keep coming back.
Do you think the little scrum at the end of Game 1, which resembled the end of Game 1 against the Maple Leafs, do you think that was themselves trying to wake up and say, okay, we're here now, game is over, we lost the game, we've got to start shifting our focus, but we have to assert ourselves as hey, we are the team to beat, guys?
Yeah, definitely. At that point, the score hadn't really mattered for a while, and that was kind of dragging them back in the fight. Of course, the guys they saw around there, were Maroon and Belmar, and that's kind of what you'd expect for them because the score didn't mean anything. So they were just trying to send a message to the next game. And I don't know if the Rangers needed that message to be delivered to them, but if they if they thought the Lightning were going to go down quietly, they were pretty quickly reminded of that at the end of that game.
Absolutely. How do you feel about the New York Rangers fans chanting Igor is better? I want to hear your take.
Yeah, I mean, it's New York fans. That's what you expect. The game was obviously out of hand at that point, and everyone's sitting around and they want to stir something up. So I think that's to be expected from New York fans, and it's certainly fair to think that after what they saw in the first game, everyone overreacts to Game 1 of any sport. But it's a 7-game series, so Vassey's got a chance to show that he is better, and the fight's far from over.
I think John Cooper said it best when he said, "Look, the Igor is great, but
Hmm.
when you're walking down when you're walking down our aisle and you see Vazzy holding 2 cups, my
Yeah,
guy will always be the best until you get to that point."
yeah, definitely. I think that there is some truth to that. Shesterkin, he had the best season this year. He's most likely going to win the Vezina Trophy, and it's kind of strange. Shesterkin hasn't been around as long as Vasilevsky. He wasn't as high of a draft pick. And so they're kind of about the same age. Vasilevsky's maybe about a year or so older, but Shesterkin's kind of come on a little more recently than Vasilevsky did. But, he had the best season, but Vasilevsky's got the most accomplishments over the course of their career.
Mm.
So, Shesterkin, they're right there with each other right now, but
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's experience is probably going to come through at some point in this series, you have to think.
When you watched, and I'm gonna kind of fast forward here a little bit and say, let's say the Lightning take care of business in this round. They move on to the Stanley Cup final. Do you see the Colorado Avalanche? They're up 2-0 in the series now. Do you see them being the team that represents the West Coast in the Stanley Cup final, or do you think that they ultimately end up losing it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that they are the team to beat from the Western Conference. They have been pretty much the whole season. And obviously, they took a 2-0 lead last night in a more impressive outing for me than game one against Edmonton when they won 8-6. They won 4-0 last night, which I found a lot more impressive than 8-6 because everyone was talking about the offense in that game. But when it comes down to these playoff games, you have to defend. And you're not going to win the Stanley Cup by giving up six goals. And last night having a shutout with their backup netminder in with after Darcy Kemper got hurt, that was very impressive, getting a shutout with their second goalie in there. So I think that they are the team to beat. They haven't really faced a ton of struggles in this playoffs. They've only lost 2 games after sweeping round one. They went 6 games against St. Louis in the second round, and they've kind of just been a steamroller. They haven't had hardly any struggles. I think that they are the team to beat from the Western Conference, except the goaltending situation is a little bit of a concern to me still, but we've got some time for that to play out.
I think the thing that's most interesting for me is that basically all before the season even started, every sports book pegged Colorado versus Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup final. And here we are. It's the Lightning obviously need to right a few of the wrongs, but here we are on the cusp of the Stanley Cup final, and we're talking about Colorado versus Tampa Bay. Tonight, game 2, the Lightning are favored. They're minus 130. The Rangers are plus 110. Over under is 5.5. How are you feeling about this game tonight? Do they turn it around? And for some reason, if Tampa Bay is unable to overcome and get the win in New York tonight, does that solidify the series, or do you think this is still very much at play for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yeah, I think that obviously we've seen every time the Lightning lose, they come back to win. It's like 18 in a row or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's every single reason to believe that they will win this game tonight. And if for some reason they don't, we talk about the goaltending. If Shesterkin ends up stealing them another one, or stealing one, they didn't steal game 1. But if he steals this game and the Lightning go down 2-0, I don't think it's curtains at that point. You always talk about you're not in trouble until you lose at home. They still have a lot of games in front of them. Obviously, it'd be a pretty uphill climb at that point, but I wouldn't say it's over. But it certainly would be some unfamiliar territory for the Lightning, having not been down 2-0 like this with this group of players.
Yeah. The number is 18-0, which is, the resiliency is there. It's credit to the veteran players. It's credit to John Cooper and their ability to just make, we talk about it in other sports all the time, make the adjustments halftime, right? And that's what it seems to be every single time this Tampa Bay Lightning team loses, is they rebound and turn the tables.
Yeah. Like I said, there's absolutely no reason to believe that they won't win, and until they don't. So until they prove otherwise, that they're they can lose 2 games in a row, then it's hard to imagine it really happening because, I believe if you're gonna beat the Lightning, obviously they're not gonna beat themselves. They beat themselves in game 1, but you're gonna have to beat them, and you're gonna have to beat them 2 games in a row. Obviously, it doesn't technically have to go that way in this series if they win every other game, but I believe if you're going to knock them out, you're going to have to beat them 2 games in a row.
And we'll see. So what are your keys? What are your keys for victory tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning to even up the series as it shifts back to Tampa?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing after, the way game 1 went was you can't beat yourself. I felt like the Lightning made a ton of mistakes in their coverage and stuff, which was completely reasonable. 9 days off without game action, and it's impossible to simulate game action in practice. So they were, missing a lot of those attention to details, and their structure broke down quite a bit. And I felt like they kind of fueled the offensive chances for the Rangers with their mistakes. So I think limiting the mistakes, because, I felt like the Rangers played a good game, but I feel like they didn't necessarily do a whole lot offensively that, the Lightning, were sort of scared in any way. Like, I felt like the Lightning kind of fueled their offensive chances.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they got 6 goals, so a lot of the mistakes I felt like drove that offense for the Rangers. And I think limiting the mistakes and getting back to that, their defensive structure that they saw from those 4 straight wins against the Panthers, where it was team defense all the way. That was the priority the entire way. And if they can get back to that, then I think that they should have themselves in great position to come back down here 1-1.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail right on the head. Is the team defense was able to frustrate the Florida Panthers, who love to shoot the lights out, right? And if you stop the puck and you stop them from scoring, they're going to get frustrated, and you're going to be able to put them off their game. The Rangers have, I think they won 7 games that were with 1 goal games and less than 2 goals scored all throughout the whole season. So it's like when you look at that, you go, okay, well, you can't beat yourself. And we saw, Sergachev was on the ice for like 2:45 for 1 shift in game 1. And you can't do that. You have to clear the puck. And you know this as well as being a managing editor for a hockey website, is when bad things are going to happen if you don't clear the puck, man. You got to get it out of your defensive zone. It doesn't matter how good Vazzy is.
Yeah, on that, that was the backbreaker in game 1. That long shift that the Rangers had in the offensive zone. I can't remember who all was out there. I remember Cirelli and Sergachev. They just couldn't hit the puck out. They were in their zone for about 2 minutes, and that ended up resulting in, I believe, the 4th goal, I think, for the Rangers. So that kind of put it somewhat out of reach at that point, and you can't be spending that much time in your own end. So obviously they beat themselves more than once in game 1.
Yeah, I see so many parallels in this game 1 that I did in the Toronto Maple Leafs game 1. Self-inflicted wounds, not clearing the puck, turnovers, and things that just led the New York Rangers to scoring easy goals.
Yeah, no, they definitely got a lot of energy too from the home crowd. The Lightning weren't necessarily ready for it. The other team came with more energy and life, and once they got that lead, they just kind of ran with it. So after it was even early on, I thought the Lightning played okay in the first period and a half or so, and then once the Rangers got those 3rd and 4th goals in the 3rd period, that was it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. Do you think Braden Point will suit up tonight? I know he was a part of the optional skate for game 1.
Yeah.
Or do you think they're just going to hold him off to game 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The conversation around it doesn't really seem that good. I don't know if you've seen some of the footage of him from the morning skates. He comes out there before and after by himself, and some of the footage, he's not moving too fast. It's very careful work he's doing out there, and I'm not really sure if I see it happening anytime soon. At least maybe not until a real need arise, and until then, I don't see them pushing it for any reason. They've proven they can win without him, so I think that's going to be the plan for the foreseeable future.
Which makes sense. I mean, yeah, hockey is definitely a harder sport to have like a decoy player out there because you're still going to get hit.
Yeah,
It's not,
he would be a target out there for sure. Ryan Reeves, one hit, he could be buried for the season at that point. So it's not really worth pushing it, I think, at this point.
no, I'm definitely with you on that. That's for sure. Because you have to save him. You're right. Just wasn't sure if you had any insider knowledge on what was going
Yeah,
on with Braden there.
no, I mean they keep it so tight in hockey in general, but the Lightning especially, they keep everything so tight. So no one really knows anything other than what they saw at the morning skate. Those video highlights of him, moving around. No one really knows a whole lot more than that. So the conversation doesn't seem that great for the foreseeable future.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
All right.
Lightning win game 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the score is going to be
Tonight? Yeah, if they're going to win tonight, I think you could probably see, I think 4-2 will be where we're at. I don't think we're in place for a Vasilevsky shutout quite yet. I think 4-2. I'll go with 4-2.
Okay.
Against Toronto, those bounce back games, he was giving up three in each of one of those ones. So I think like game 2 against Toronto might have been like 5-3 or something like that. But I think 4-2 is what I would say for tonight. There's no reason to think that they will lose this game yet.
Yeah, no, they're just too good. And even though their backs are sort of against the wall after the game 1 loss, this John Cooper says it every time they lose a game. This is not anything new for us. We know how to come back. Stammer he said it in the post-game press conference. You touched on it this morning. We know how this team is going to bounce back. We know that they're going to be able to overcome the adversity. And they're also like, they've already won back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. You could be down 0-1, even 0-2, and still be cooler than the other side of the pillow. Shout out to Stuart Scott for that line. But, it's, to me, that's just something that, the Rangers are playing with something to prove, where the Lightning are just kind of out there doing their thing at this point.
Yeah, no, it's a first go around for this group with the Rangers. And, the Lightning, they've been in tougher situations than down 1-0, as soon as this year. I mean, Toronto, they were down the entire series, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2, and you could argue that was a better team, not a better goaltender, but that was probably the second best team in the Eastern Conference, we believe. So they've been there. This isn't new to them, and until they lose 2 in a row, there's no reason to believe that they will.
I'm with you on that one. So you got 4-2 tonight. Just for the record, I said 2-1. Lightning would win in game 1, and holy hell, I was way off on that one.
Yeah, no, obviously, and rightly so, the conversation was all around goaltending for this series. But I don't think Vasilevsky was poor in game 1, but obviously, 6 pucks went in, so it wasn't that goaltending battle that we saw in game 1. So we'll probably see a little bit of low scoring action as we go on through the series, but obviously that wasn't reflected in game 1, and 9 days off had a lot to do with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we know that Andrei Vasilevsky tightens it up the deeper they go into the series, and there will be a shutout at some point. I'm almost 100% certain that at some point he will post a shutout against the New York Rangers at some point in this series.
Yeah, he's you can almost count on one of those games. Obviously, the team defends pretty well in front of him, like they did in the Florida series, and he ended up having his best game in game 4. And it's almost all of those series clinching games, you almost just know he's not going to give up another goal, and that's a crazy feeling to have. When you're going up against the best team in the world, when you feel like this guy's not going to let anything in.
Yep.
He's the best until proven otherwise. So
100%. And you have to think that he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder just because of what the fans were chanting. I know some players will tell you that they don't listen to it, but they do. Like,
Oh
players
yeah,
do listen to that. They hear it. And when you know that you're at a certain level, I mean, they've already talked about Andre Vasilevsky is on the Mount Rushmore of goalies already. They're already talking about that, and he's still very
it's
young.
crazy. It's crazy.
Like, I know you tweeted about you tweeted out, chants never backfire on the New York fans, do they?
Yeah, no, there's been a number of things over the years. I mean, you can go back to the Brooklyn Nets this past year saying we want Boston. The Celtics come in there, sweep them 4-0. The Yankees have done that with the Red Sox. That's just the way it is.
Yep. I'm with you on that. Well, Henry, I appreciate you joining us this morning. Make sure you guys go check out Bolts by the Bay. They have got great content over there. I used to work with Henry over there once upon a time. And
That's right.
yeah, check out Henry, check out Noah, everything that they've got going on over there. Follow them on all of their social media platforms. Do you guys have anything special you're doing prediction-wise or anything on the website today?
Well, we've got our recent series predictions up, and we'll see if we have anything coming as far as a certain player we might like to see get going in this game. Obviously, we've had a little bit of fun with that so far in this playoffs. If you happen to have seen that, especially round 1 against Toronto.
Yeah, you called that spot on.
Yeah. No, that was the peak of Bolts by the Bay, and we almost nailed that in round 2 against Florida. We had Alex Killorn being that guy, and he ended up having his goal called back. So that was devastating. So we'll see if we got a little more something like that coming tonight for an individual.
There we go. Awesome. Well, guys, enjoy game 2. Go check out Bolts by the Bay. Henry, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe we'll get you on Monday if the cards and the stars all align, and we'll have a different chat because we'll be up 2-1.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it could be a completely different world when we are back here on Monday.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Henry. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the game.
Absolutely, bud. Yeah. Well, there you have it. Henry Yoho, managing editor of Bolt by the Bay. 4-2. He's got it. Look, Henry predicted before Nick Paul had his 2-goal game. This is what we heard. I feel like it's a Nick Paul night. Scored 2 goals. Same game. He posted that at like 9 a.m. So it's not like scored 1 and this. Yeah, I think he's going to get another. No, he did that early in the morning. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see what happens tonight. Of course, the watch party is at Emily Arena. $10 to get in. Watch it on the old big screen. I'll be there with my better half, I think. We'll see. Moving on. The Rays split the series. I guess that's a win is always better than a loss, right? But man, it's still mind-boggling how you split the season the series with the Texas Rangers, who were under 500, and they're not a good team, and we are contenders. The Tampa Bay Rays are contenders, and this should be a team that is handling these other teams routinely. We should have beaten the Rangers 4-0, but we didn't, and that's okay. The Yankees had a doubleheader yesterday. They won both games, naturally, because that's what they've been doing this season, which now means that the Rays are 6 games behind first place and behind the Yankees. They're still in third place. They will host the Chicago White Sox tonight at 7:10. Hopefully they can get this thing done and just start tightening things up. We know they have 2 series with the Yankees this month, and this is your time to start making a move forward. This is where you need to progress. Corey Kluber looked good last night. I should say yesterday afternoon. It was a 2 p.m. pitch, but Corey Kluber looked good yesterday, and it's time you tighten it up. if you're the Tampa Bay Rays, it's time you start progressing forward, you start closing the gaps, and you start making your moves as we head deeper into the summer. Obviously, it's only June 3rd, so we don't necessarily have to panic. It's still very early. We know the Rays are going to make their push at the end of the season like they always do. But let's just make the end of the season a little bit easier, guys. Can we not do that? ESPN's power rankings are out. And we just rounded up the top 10 here. I don't think we need all of the teams here. Do you feel like the Rays are a top 10 team in the league? If you're looking at the ESPN power rankings, of course, they've got we'll go 10-1 here. Minnesota Twins are number 10. Toronto Blue Jays are at 9. The St. Louis Cardinals at 8. Our Tampa Bay Rays at 7. The San Diego Padres at 6. Milwaukee Brewers at 5. Houston Astros at 4. The New York Mets at 3. The Yanks are at 2. And the Los Angeles Dodgers are currently listed as the top team in the big leagues, according to ESPN. I don't know how I feel about the Tampa Bay Rays being the 7th in power rankings, especially when I look at number 9 and I see that's the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays are currently on an 8-game winning streak, and they're beating teams that they should. They have overtaken the second place in the AL East from our Tampa Bay Rays. And I feel like, look, I'm okay with the respect, because we talk about this a lot, where we don't get respect from national media in Tampa. Unless it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who only get respect because Tom Brady is here, we don't really get a lot of positive news coverage when it comes to our Tampa Bay sports team. So seeing them at number 7, I'm okay with seeing them in the top 10, but not number 7. Especially when you've got the Toronto Blue Jays beneath the Tampa Bay Rays.
Danny, what did I say before the show? It's being generous. Come on, man.
It is definitely being generous. I felt like I was in the Upside Down right now when I heard the voice of an angel come down to me, which is Evan running the show behind the scenes, guys. But it is very generous. And look, the Rays are now one of 2 teams above 500 that have a positive run differential that is 10 or less. They have outscored their teams by 10 runs, and that is it. The only thing that's more shocking is that the Toronto Blue Jays have outscored their opponents by 9 runs. So their mound is coming up bigger. Look, we talk about this all the time. Evan has said it multiple times. I've said it multiple times. The bullpen needs to tighten it up, and then you have to get some consistency from the bats. If you're looking at the ESPN power rankings and thinking the Tampa Bay Rays are just fine because they're the 7th best team, you're mistaking, because they're not the 7th best team currently. If you want to put them at number 10, I'm okay with putting them at number 10. Move them out, slide everybody up, and then slide them into number 10. And I'd be okay with that.
Dana, do you think we should start calling some phones about making some trades?
Yeah, you know what? After we go off the air today, let's start calling some agents and see what we can work up for the Rays.
I think we should do that.
Yeah. To me, it's crazy. It really is. It's.
Well, I think
they
it
need consistency.
goes back to the comments that Kirsten made a couple of weeks ago, where she doesn't think they're a whole playoff-ready team, and I agree with that too when she said that. I think going into this, as we approach the All-Star break and also the trade deadline, maybe it's start to say, hey, we need to bolster up our lineup. We need to bolster up our pitching. Maybe we should start making some phone calls to see if there's any listening ears. And obviously, there's going to be some listening ears because the Rays have a really good farm system. And they've got some chips they could move in the trade deadline. So I think maybe now they should start looking. Maybe for us to get into the summer months and also make a playoff push, maybe we should start making some phone calls to see who's available and to see who we could possibly move in some blockbuster moves.
Yeah. I touched on this yesterday. We don't need somebody like, you don't need a superstar. You don't need a Mike Trout, right? You don't need an Aaron Judge. Like, you don't need a superstar. You just need somebody on this team that is going to be consistent. That's what it boils down to, is the lack of consistency. And we're through what, 8 weeks of the season already? Now is the time where you start going, okay, so at what point do we start acknowledging that there are issues? Because there was a point where you go, yeah, but it's early in the season. It's still technically early-ish in the season. But we're going into the summer where you need to start making your power moves. You need to be shown as a team to beat. When you're listed at number 7 in the power rankings, it should be like a legitimate number 7. It shouldn't be a respect number 7. It should be, yeah, this team is fantastic. This is a team to beat. This team is definitely going to make the playoffs. They're going to go deep into the playoffs. Evan just rehashed the point that Kristen made before. This does not look like a playoff team currently. And that's going to be an issue if they do not make any sort of changes. And are they even going to make changes? That's the part for me that I never have an answer to, because we know how this team works. They don't typically make a lot of changes, and it's, to me, that's something that it needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, because you do not want to fall that far behind the 8 ball. You can't count on the Yankees to be bad, right? You can't count on the Yankees falling apart. And to me, that's the part that's scary, is at this point right now, we're hoping that the Yankees fall apart because we're so inconsistent in Tampa.
I don't think it's going to happen. For us to keep up with the Yankees, we're going to have to do something. Plus, you got to keep up with the Blue Jays too, as well. The Blue Jays have strung together a nice little win streak. They're in second place now. We talked about this before, Danny. It's the consistency of the team, and the Rays have not really been consistent when it comes to putting together a win streak or any kind of, nice little consistency of wins. And they haven't done that. They haven't done that this past month, especially in May. Now we're going into June. So, hopefully June can turn it around. But for us to keep up with Toronto and New York, people have got to step up.
Yep.
People got to do something, because
yep.
You can't split a series against the Rangers. You got to win at least three out of the 4, or at least sweep them. So,
to me, the Rangers series was the wake up call series for me.
I hope it was a wake up call for the Rays, because the way they played. Look, splitting the series against the Yankees, that's fine, but when you lose series against the Baltimore Orioles and you're splitting series against the Rangers, teams that you should obviously beat, like, there's issues, and the Rays need to address those before we get into the later on months, and I think they will, because the Rays are they're known for making moves at the trade deadline to bring in pieces that they can make a run. But if they're going to put in all their chips to make a run this year, they've got to make some big chips and bring them on over to the team, because this team right now is not where it should be.
No, they're not.
And I know we're getting reinforcements coming back. I know Shane Baz he's progressing pretty well in Durham, so he should be back pretty soon. And we might get Luis Patino back as well. But that's later on in the season. We need to put something together now.
Yeah, you're almost at a win now point of the season if you're the Rays, because you articulated it perfectly. We can't count on the Yankees to fall apart. They look too good and they are too dominant this season. This might be their year, you know, but you have to at least be competitive. And if you're splitting series against the Rangers, that's not really being competitive. You're never going to have a winning streak if you're splitting series all the time. So when you've got the Blue Jays on an 8-game streak right now, I would kill for a 4-game streak right now if I'm the Tampa Bay Rays, you know, like that's what we need.
We saw this before early in the season with the Blue Jays where they strung together a bunch of wins. They were in first place for a little bit and then they dropped off. So this is normal of Toronto to do this. They'll string together a bunch of wins, get some momentum, and then they'll start to fall again. So hopefully that happens with the Blue Jays, but I'd frankly not. I'd rather be trying to catch up to one team instead of just now 2 teams that we have to catch up to.
Yeah, that's yeah. I know we're a half game behind the Blue Jays, which is fine, and that doesn't worry me. But what worries me is that the Blue Jays have looked really, really good over these last like 3 weeks, and are they gonna? Do they have it together? Is it just a good streak, or is it something that we need to look out for as Tampa Bay Rays fans going, okay, so now we have to try and hold off the Boston Red Sox from overtaking third, because you can't anticipate the Red Sox being this bad either. And that's the AL East is by far the tightest division in the majors. The Yankees, the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox. So Danny, typically 4 teams that you can always count on being good.
So Danny, our next string of games, we've got 3 against the White Sox this weekend, then back home, 3 against this weekend against the White Sox at a day off, then 3 against the Cardinals, then 3 against the Twins in Minnesota, then back in New York for 3 against the Yankees. So this next 12-game stretch are against teams that are in that top 10 list.
Yes. This is where you solidify yourself as a playoff team or not a playoff team.
Right.
This is your gauntlet right here. You have to run this gauntlet.
This next month, we play the Yankees a total of 6 times.
You got to win 4.
Yeah.
At least. Not 3. Don't split it with the Yankees anymore. You got to win 4. You have to win. You have to win the series. Mm-hmm. Both series. But 4-2. That's what they have to do, at least. I'm nervous. I don't know how I feel about it because I hate harping on the inconsistency all the time, but
that's their MO right now. Is this?
Damn it, dude! It's just not a good look when you can only really count on Shane McClanahan, and that's kind of it. Not a good look.
No.
Not a good look. Post June 1st designations have hit in the NFL. Of course, these players were all free agents already. Post June 1st designation, what that means is now their salary caps are officially off the books. The reason why we're talking about it, obviously, is because should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers add any depth at any position to their roster? I'm not a fan of Julio Jones. So we've got Julio Jones, Fletcher Cox, Landon Collins, Austin Hooper, Lyle Collins, Corey Littleton, Carlos Dunlap, Danny Trevathan, Jordan Phillips, Tariq Cohen, and Carl Nassib. When I look at the list, and these are obviously, like I said, they've been free agents this entire time, but they're now relevant names again because their caps just were erased from their previous team's books. I look at somebody like an Austin Hooper, and I wonder if the Buccaneers should bring in a guy like an Austin Hooper. I know we've got Cameron Brate, but Cameron Brate has been injured often. He's a red zone threat, yes. But why don't you just shore up that tight end position? I mean, we ran with O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, and Rob Gronkowski last year and the year before. Why not bring in another solid tight end like an Austin Hooper? I'm not saying, like, if I'm looking at this list, like, yeah, do we need a reuniting with Carl Nassib, or do you want to bring in somebody like a Tariq Cohen? Sure, but like, well, Austin Hooper is probably out of these 11 players, he is my favorite for us to bring in and just solidify the tight end position. The Bucks have approximately $12 million in cap space per over the cap. And they have issues, and tight end has got to be a big issue for them. I know they drafted tight ends, and that's fine. But Austin Hooper is a good we saw what he could do in Atlanta. He almost ran David Njoku out of his starting role in Cleveland. Why don't we look at bringing somebody like Austin Hooper into the team? Why don't we look at signing him? Bring him in, let him. Hell, if you want to run a 2 tight end set, he's already he's a solid starting tight end. He could possibly challenge Cameron Brate for the starting role at tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they were to sign him. Would that work out? I don't know. However, it's definitely something that they should consider. Chris Godwin, great news if you're a Chris Godwin fan. If you're a Buccaneers fan, Chris Godwin is apparently ahead of schedule as far as return time. Cyril Grayson was on the Pewter Report podcast and says that he's going to return faster than people think. And then he said that he's already running 19 miles an hour, obviously non-contact. I guess the top speed is 23 miles an hour. Cyril said that you don't need to run any faster than 19 miles an hour in NFL game speed. That's your average speed. Obviously, he was a former track star, which is why he knows things like this as far as like how fast you want to run. But that is fantastic news if Chris Godwin can come back earlier. I do not know if it was a play on words where he said he will return faster than people think. Did he mean fast in terms of speed, or did he mean fast in terms of timeline? My takeaway from it when I listened to the Pewter Report podcast was that he actually meant both. He meant that Chris Godwin is going to return faster in terms of timeline and faster in terms of, holy shit, this guy's fast, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm here for it. I'm sure you guys are as well. This Buccaneers wide receiving core is going to be absolutely scary when they are fully healthy. We didn't know exactly what we would get with Antonio Brown when he was here. Antonio Brown was great. He wasn't quite the Antonio Brown that was in Pittsburgh, which would have put this team absolutely over the top. But Russell Gage is still very young. Russell Gage is still growing. He's still maturing. We saw what he can do firsthand in that second game against the Buccaneers last season. We saw what he can do, and that was all in the second half for the most part. So when you're looking at Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, like, this is a very, very good and young wide receiving core. Chris Godwin is 26 years old. He's under contract for another 3 years. Russell Gage is under contract for 3 years. Mike Evans under contract for 3 years. Everybody's under contract for a long period of time. And this is a young core. I mean, that's all you could ask for. We're not going to talk about the Mike Evans. I saw my little Facebook Messenger pop up. We're not going to talk about where Mike Evans was slighted in terms of where he'll land this season. We're not going to talk about that. But we will talk about the top 25 under 25 according to CBS. You know how I do my lists. I will read them out to you because some of you are driving while you listen to the show, and I appreciate the multitask. We will take it from 25 down. Jeremy Chin at 25, CD Lamb at 24, our very own Devin White at 23. I feel like Devin White being at 23 is indicative of the bar he set his rookie year being so high and not being able to perform at that extremely high level that he performed at.
Hey, Danny, I know we don't like lists, but I like this list kind of.
Yeah, as we roll through here, Brian Burns at 21, Jesse Bates at 20, Minka Fitzpatrick at 19. I'm not seeing any. I guess the only thing is in the top 10 is where I see like an issue. DJ Moore at 18, Fred Warner at 17, Micah Parsons is at 16, Rashawn Slater at 15, Chase Young rounds out the 14. Roquan Smith from the Chicago Bears at 13. AJ Brown is in the 12th slot. Of course, now he's with the Philadelphia Eagles. We all know how I feel about AJ Brown when we talk about Mike Evans. Number 11 is DK Metcalf. And here's where it gets a little wishy-washy for me is number 10. Number 10 is Jonathan Taylor. I don't know how you have the number one running back in the NFL, who's only 23 years old, by the way, at number 10. While you've got Jair Alexander at 9. Kyler Murray is at 8. The Bucs' own Tristan Wirfs is at number 7. I think that's impressive. There are 2 offensive linemen listed as the top 25 under 25. And Tristan Wirfs is not only one of them, but he's in the top 10. And that's huge for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 23 years old. Jamar Chase is at number 6. And then we get to the top 5. You have Justin Jefferson at 5. Nick Bosa at 4. Joe Burrow at 3. Lamar Jackson at 2. And Justin Herbert at numero 1. I'm A-okay with Justin Herbert being listed at number 1. I think Justin Herbert took the biggest leap out of anybody in his sophomore season. I think he is on the cusp of being in a conversation with the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL, with your Josh Allens, with your Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how I feel about Lamar Jackson being at number 2. Like I said, to me, the top 10 is a little it's a little strange, especially when you've got Jonathan Taylor at that number 10 position. Tristan Wirfs at number 7 is a fantastic nod to a fantastic offensive tackle. And I think look at the company he's in. No, look at the company Jamar Chase is in as well. Jamar Chase was a rookie last year, and he's already number 6. If the Bucs have 2 guys on here, they also have 2 players that just missed it. Antoine Winfield Jr. just missed the list. He was listed at number 27. And Chris Godwin just turned 26, so he is disqualified from making this list. Otherwise, Chris Godwin would have had... There's no way in hell Chris Godwin would have been listed worse than DJ Moore. There's absolutely no way. So you look at this list and go, okay, I'm pretty happy with the majority of this list. I'm definitely happy where Devin White is. Devin White being on this list is, as a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, is great. Tristan Wirfs being on this list at number 7 is absolutely astonishing in a good, positive way. That's where you want to be. That's where you want your offensive linemen to be. If you can have offensive linemen in the top 10 of any good list that features other offensive players, you're in good hands, baby. And that's all that really matters is you are in absolutely fantastic position if you've got an offensive lineman in the top 10 surrounded by quarterbacks and wide receivers and running backs. Great position to be in if you're Tristan Wirfs. Absolutely great position. As we get ready to wrap up the show, we will touch a little bit on the NBA Finals. Game 1 was last night. The Celtics pulled out a 40-point fourth quarter, and they took Game 1 in Golden State away from the Warriors. I still think the Warriors are going to win the NBA Finals. I think they're just too good of a team. And I don't know if Al Horford's ever going to shoot 6 of 8 from 3 ever again in his life. But the thing that is the thing that's you've got to worry about if you are the Golden State Warriors is Jason Tatum only shot 3 of 17 from the floor. He had 12 points in Game 1. That's not the outing that you expect a player like Jason Tatum to have. Steph Curry was above 30. Everybody kind of played outside of Draymond Green. Everybody kind of played the way that you would have expected them to play for Golden State. Maybe Curry shot a little lighter than you would have liked in terms of field goal percentage. But you can't count on holding Jason Tatum to 12 points every night. 13 assists, perfect. That's fine. Jason Tatum was able to understand, I'm shooting like shit. Let me start getting my guys involved. Let me start passing the ball around and taking care of this win and getting this first win under our belt. Of course, Al Horford's very first finals game. I don't want to say it's beginner's luck, right? Because it's Al Horford. He's been in the league for such a long time, but it was nice to see Al Horford be able to step up and play big in his very first ever finals game. When I look at this game, I really felt like the Golden State Warriors had too much time off. I really felt like it was almost the same exact issue that the Tampa Bay Lightning had in Game 1, where you get a little bit of time off, and that's great to rest like nagging injuries. You got, contusions or bruises, and you're banged up, you're sore. It's great to be able to heal, but it's also very bad in terms of rust. You don't want that much time off. We see it every single season in the NFL playoffs. One of the teams will get a bye, and then they lose in the first game. Tampa Bay Lightning had 9 days off. They lost in the first game. I don't know exactly how many days off the Warriors had, but they had a lot of days off. They lost in the first game. But they didn't play bad. They just got completely outplayed because other people stepped up. Derek White stepped up huge for the Boston Celtics. Game 2 will be Sunday night at 8 p.m. Golden State is favored by 4, according to our friends at Hard Rock Sportsbook. I still Golden State to me still seems like they are the team to beat. I said this during the Eastern Conference Finals when people were talking about the three-pointer that was taken away like 4 minutes after Strauss hit the three-pointer. Before Jimmy Butler went for the heroic three-pointer to take the 1-point lead late in the game of Game 7 instead of tying it up and going to overtime. I said it didn't matter because I still believe that the Golden State Warriors are the team to beat. It didn't matter if it was the Miami Heat. Didn't matter if it was the Boston Celtics. However, if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I need to clean it up a little bit because we played well. Jason Tatum played terribly in terms of points and shooting. 3 of 17 from the floor. You can't count on a guy like Jason Tatum to go 3 of 17 every night. If Jason Tatum doesn't go 3 of 17, is this game a blowout, like a complete blowout for Boston? Or does it change a little bit? Since he was able to adjust and he was able to pass the ball around and rack up 13 assists. I'm looking forward to game 2. Looking forward to game 2 tonight at Amalie Arena. Of course, the watch party. $10 to get in. Come on. Hang out with us. I don't know where we're going to be, but we're going to be in the arena somewhere. We're going to be hanging out with Greg, with Thunderbug, with Boltomaniac. We're going to be cheering on the Lightning. Game 2 is tonight. 8 p.m. is the puck drop. Game 2 for the NBA Finals, 8 p.m. Sunday night, which will also be game 3 for the Tampa Bay Lightning and New York Rangers series. Hopefully, that series will be shored up at 1-1. That's going to do it for us this morning on Channelside Sports in the Morning. I am Danny. Make sure you follow us on all of the social media platforms. Just look for Channelside Sports Network. CHside Sports on Twitter. Of course, please hit that subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell. You know we go live every morning at 9. Reminder, Monday, big things starting Monday. 8 a.m. shows live every Monday. And we're rebranding. We are rebranding. Channelside Sports morning show will officially be the Buzz in the Bay. Catching you up on all the latest headlines in and around Tampa Bay. Of course, I will be there every single day with you guys. Chopping it up, answering questions, having fun, talking everything that we could possibly want to talk about in Tampa Bay area. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy your weekend. We're going to do this all over again come Monday. This is Channelside Sports in the Morning. I am Danny.